All right, it is 6:30, February 3rd, 2026. Do I have a call the meeting to order and a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Gilmore, seconded.
Second.
Freya, all in favor?
Aye.
The Scituate Select Board is committed to providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask that all members interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement, and we value the participation of our community and want everyone, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask that our community members and everyone who participates to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. A lot of things to start off with. Number one, I hope everyone here can hear us better. We have new audio equipment, so hopefully folks at home are hearing us better and seeing us better. And that it enhances your ability to interact with us. I'd like to start actually, want to acknowledge something that's happened to, sadly, to another fishing community up in Gloucester. The loss of 7 lives, fishing fleas. And I'd actually like to send this over to Freya. I think you have some words.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as a fishing community here in Scituate and the connections that we have with the 7 people that went down on that boat, so we're sending love and thoughts and light out to all of them, that we support them and that we support our local fishermen and our local fishing community, and that we are here for all of you. So thank you.
With that, we're going to go. Some walk-ins. Any walk-ins or zoom-ins? Seeing none, we'll go to the report of the town administrator.
Good evening, thank you. I'm gonna start my update with the same start I gave this morning at the men's breakfast at the senior center, which is to update everybody on probably the biggest issue facing the town today. I don't mean the water treatment plant, I don't mean the Hadley Cushing School, and I don't mean North Scituate Sewer. Of course, I'm talking about the Cole Parkway gazebo. Been a lot of stuff talked about, a lot of, I think, angst online. The gazebo will be coming down probably next week. DPW is gonna assist in taking that down and getting rid of it. We have 2 engineering studies that tell us it needs to come down into worse shape. There is $100,000 on the capital plan this Springtown meeting for a new gazebo, which we can discuss as we get closer. If for some reason we do not construct a new gazebo in time for the summer concert series, there will be a temporary stage set up, so the summer concert series will go on, gazebo or no. So the other question was, have we talked to the family? Yes, we've talked to the family. We have the sign from the current bandstand. The son asked if they could have it. I said, no, not yet. Because we'll decide whether we're gonna put that sign back up. I'll put up a new sign. If we put up a new sign, we can have the old sign. If not, we're gonna put the new sign back up. So the family was very appreciative. Michelle really spent a lot of time talking to the son and explaining to him what was going on. So, just people should know, probably next week, when we're gonna get the assistance from the DPW, and we'll take down the gazebo ourselves, save quite a bit of money, and then dispose of it through our construction debris at the transfer station. So hopefully that'll calm down some people online who are concerned about what's going to happen with the gazebo. Next up, tomorrow myself and members of our emergency management team are going to be taking part in a regional recovery and resiliency workshop put on by the MAPC in Hingham. Teams from Scituate, Hingham, Hull, and Norwell are going to meet in the workshop to strengthen our ability to recover from a worst case scenario event, to look at best practices from other communities, and to see how we can learn and support each other in the case of a natural disaster. So that should be good. It's going to be about a half-day event. I think we're going to learn a lot soon, in case of a really bad storm hitting down on the South Shore. I want to say congratulations to Kelly Wallace, the Assistant Director of the Council on Aging, for completing the Mass Council on Aging certification program. Certification recognizes outstanding professionalism, leadership, and dedication in the field of municipal aging services. Certification process is rigorous, requires thoughtful reflection, documentation, visioning, and strategic planning to demonstrate mastery of core competencies relative to aging services. So congrats to Kelly, thank you for all you do, and thank you to the Council on Aging. I did remind all the residents this morning at the breakfast to please sign up for the new Smart 911 alert system. Plymouth County's launched this new alert system to replace the previous code red. This is how we communicate to you in emergency situations by phone and email. So please go online, sign up, put in your phone, put in your email, and most importantly of all, put in your address. So if we have things that are in a particular geographic location in town, we can make sure you get that. Go to the town website, it's right on the link on the homepage, and you can sign up. Recreation Department, last chance this week for councils, directors, and instructors to apply for summer employment. Applications for those positions are due this Friday at noontime. Lifeguard positions, applications are due Friday March 6th at 12 p.m. You must have a lifeguard and waterfront certifications, and you must be at least 16 years old at the start of the employment. Volunteer opportunities for high school students or people entering high school if you want to get your community service hours done. There are multiple opportunities at the Recreation Department. All the information for all this is available on the Recreation Department webpage. Town clerk has asked to remind residents that the town census has been mailed to all households in Scituate. Please read, sign, and return as soon as possible to the town clerk's office, so you can drop it in the box in front of the town hall. Remember that voters cannot use this form to register to vote or make changes to your voter information. To make changes on a register to vote, you need to come to the town clerk's office, fill out a new voter registration form, go online to the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office at voteinma.com. That's VOTEINMA.com. Filling out the annual census is required in Massachusetts and ensures that you remain in the active voter list. Towns of Cohasset, Hingham, and Scituate joined together in 2021 to create a collaborative approach to public health and education. Through efforts to provide proactive, innovative, and compassionate public health initiatives, the South Shore Public Health Collaborative is committed to ensuring that resources are available to help residents thrive. A soon-to-launch reporting support group is one such resource. A 12-week support group for excessive clutter and reporting behavior will kick off on Tuesday, February 10th at 4 p.m. at the Scituate Senior Center. The supportive in-person group feature a review and discussion of the book Burying the Treasure: Help for Compulsive Acquiring, Saving, and Hoarding. Topics will include defining coding, understanding how it develops, and gaining motivation and skills to reduce clutter. Pre-registration is required. Call or text 508-964-3336. Central Police Department is hosting their first blood drive of 2026. That's this February 7th, 2026. Go to the Police Department webpage or their Facebook page for information. And finally, the food pantry continues to see unprecedented demand. They're very grateful for the residents of Scituate's help. Most needed items at this time: Spam, hamburger helper on north sides, canned potatoes, jello, pickles or olives, canned chicken, artificial sweetener, microwave popcorn, canned pasta with meat, and canned spinach. These can be dropped off the food pantry during operating hours or on the bins behind the old gates. John's Village Market and the Scituate Library also collecting the food pantry. That's what I have for tonight.
Thank you. All questions or?
I always have something to say. The anchor that's on the bandstand, I asked Cam to take that one down too. I don't know if that was put up by the Morrill family or if that was put up by somebody else, but they're gonna
Okay.
save the anchor.
If you've asked them again.
Yeah, no, they're.
Anything from the audience or home? No. All right. Everyone knows before we have our superintendent come up, there's a big game this weekend. And I just want you to know, no matter what happens, Scituate is going to win. Because a lot of people don't know this. Patriots win, I think a lot of us will be happy. But if not, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks grew up right here he didn't go to high school here, but grew up here in Scituate. So as we know, we're gonna have a Super Bowl winner, regardless. So we're gonna be proud. Well, of course. So with that, we'll bring up our superintendent to talk about the school budget and why we love Wampum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, we're getting organized. Let me introduce myself for those who may not have met me. My name is Tom Reb. I'm the interim superintendent. This is Irene Poole. She is our interim director of business and finance. And I'm also joined this evening by our school committee chair, Nicole Brandolini, and our school committee vice chair, Maria Fenwick. We're really happy to have them with us. Last night, I presented a 2-hour presentation to our administrative team, presented a 2-hour presentation to the school committee with all the gory details of the school department budget. So I would urge anybody who's interested in those gory details to please go and take a look at that online. Tonight, I will try to keep my remarks to 15 or 20 minutes and do an overview. So we'll begin with our first slide. Our budget reflects all of our priorities. And so as we talk about all the different things in our budget, you'll notice they all go back to teaching, learning, and leading, our communication, our community, and particularly finance, facilities, personnel, and technology. Everything that we do funnels into these areas. Next slide, please. One of the things that's often talked about here is our enrollment. And we look back and we look forward with enrollment. Right now, we have 27, 26 students this year. That's a little off, just if you keep it on that prior slide, just for one moment. I'm fast, but I'm not that fast. And there is a mistake on here. If you go online to the DEAS website, this is our October 1 enrollment. We have 50 kindergarten students at Wampatuck, not 70. We're working to correct that with them, but I didn't want to correct the slide because if you go online, this is what you'll see. There's also 10 more students at Hathaway than are reported here. So our actual enrollment is 2716. And if you look at next year, now you can go forward one, you'll see for 26-27 that this is NESDEC, is the New England School Development Corporation. They do enrollment projections for us for the next 10 years. And so they go out to 2035, 36, and you'll see a steady increase. It's not a huge increase, but there's a steady increase. Next year, they're predicting 27-24, but understand that is 8 to 12 without preschool. So if we add our preschool students, typically we have around 80 preschool students, we'll have about 2,800 students next year, roughly 90 more students than we have this year. This enrollment projection has been pretty accurate over the years within a 10 or 20 student swing, and so we look at it very closely. What that tells us is that we can handle the enrollment that we have with our current staff. So this is primarily a level services budget. It allows us to maintain everything we're doing. We'll talk a little bit about FTEs in a moment, but it allows us to continue everything we're doing. There are no cuts. There are no any kind of reduction in force in this budget. Next slide. So when we begin putting together the budget, the first thing we want to talk about is the revenue. How much funding is available for us to put together our budget? Next slide. So the first thing, our financial forecast, we met on October 14th. And the school share was $50.2 million for a $1.9 million increase. We were very grateful to that, but our school budget is also informed by grants and state aid as well. So if you look at the next revenue projections and you follow the yellow column, the FY27 proposed, if you look at the very bottom of the page, you'll see the $50.2 million that I just talked about, and right above it is $4.7 million in grants and revolving offsets. We do a total funds approach to our budget because we need every last penny of both the town contribution as well as federal and state offsets. And these are ones that are pretty guaranteed. I know right now at the federal government level, there are a lot of questions about reimbursements and so forth, but these have been committed to at least through next year. And for the sake of people who may not know.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. Title I is a program that funds middle school math specialists that we have. Title IIA is a math consultant to help us with our math teachers. They have a brand new curriculum they put in 2 years ago. And Title IV is a holistic student assessment for student social emotional needs. IDEA is a program that helps us with it's basically special education. It helps us with our tuitions for out-of-district special education, as well as our special education transportation. ECC is early childhood. We do get money from the state to support our early childhood program. METCO is METCO, supports our METCO program. And our significant increase this year is in Circuit Breaker. So Circuit Breaker is a reimbursement program from the state that offsets our special education expenses for out-of-district placement. So we get up to 70% reimbursement the following year after we spend it. So we have to lay the funding out and then we get the money back. This year, because of this year's spending, we're going to be looking at $2.2 million in circuit breaker reimbursement. So I've adjusted that revenue up to allow us to capture all of those dollars in the revenue. The rest are revolving accounts, our non-resident tuition, which is a program at the high school called IXL, where we actually tuition in students from other towns, and they go into that special education program. Our tuition for our early childhood center, our bus fees, our sports events receipts, any receipts we get from the Performing Arts Center. And the bus lease is as a back and forth. We get revenue from the town, and then we spend it through the town financial forecast committee. So total, when we put our budget together, we put it together for $55 million. And I think that's important because a lot of other towns don't do it this way. A lot of other schools that I've been in don't do it this way. And this allows everybody to see in full transparency all the funding that we're using to put together our budget. So if we go to the next slide. Sure, of course.
The circuit breaker, when you talk about the $400,000 increase to 2.2 million, is that 2.2 money that's actually coming back to us from last year, the 2.2?
Yes, it's claimed from last year that we get this year that we'll spend next year. Yeah. We always keep 1 year in abeyance. It helps us out. Yeah. So when we look at our budget, how are we apportioning the $55 million that I was just talking about? There's a couple of, I'm going to kind of go from 60,000 feet down, and this is how we do it. So we look at the budget summary. Our budget is really focused on our buildings and on instruction. That's where it should be. And so if you look here, most of the pie is in our individual buildings. And that's really what it should be in terms of instruction. We go to the next slide. There's a couple of trends that I've been doing finances for schools since 2014, and I've been an administrator since 2003. One of the things that we look for is an 80-20 split of salaries and expenses. And a lot of times you'll see different places and it's 85-15. And whenever you sort of veer from 80-20, you get yourself in trouble. Either there's too much staff if you're at 85-15 and you're not putting enough money into expenses, you're not putting enough money into maintaining your buildings, not putting enough money into professional development or technology, or vice versa. If you're under 80%, then you have too much money in expenses and you don't have an appropriate staff. So 80-20 is a good metric to look for. If you see it in a school budget, it makes a lot of sense. Next slide. Similarly, with the split between regular ed and special education, I like a 70-30 split if I can see it in that area. We have 18 to 19% of our students are on IEPs in Scituate. And then you add those to our out of district placements, and a 70-30 split is kind of what you want to see for that regular ed special education split. There's also something called, you can keep going. There's also something called maintenance of effort. And so with the state, we're not allowed to spend less in special education than we spent the year before. And so we have to we call it maintenance of effort. And that $15.8 million for special education meets that maintenance of effort threshold. And then if we look at a summary of how do we break all of this down through general education, special ed, again, most of our funding is going to our buildings, which is what should happen. And then we here are very well resourced. If you look at the special education line, we have staff, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech language pathologists, BCBAs, which are board certified behavior analysts, and team leaders. Not every district has these. They have to contract out for these. It's a lot more expensive to contract out. They're needed to cover needs and IEPs. We have them on staff. Transportation, we keep our special education transportation numbers reasonable because we have 6 vans. We do our own transportation. We do have to contract some of it out, but we can keep it reasonable by owning our own vans, having our own drivers, and working with the town and so forth, and it works really well. Our out-of-district tuitions are around $3.9 million. That's been consistent the last 2 to 3 years. Our special education director, Dr. Bobert, works really hard to keep that number consistent at 3.9. There are always students entering those programs. There are students coming out. A good metric is about 1% of your student population are typically in out-of-district placements with 2,700 kids. Right now, we have about 28, 29 kids in placements, which is around 1%. So that's what we want to see when you are looking at a budget and you say, is this what you'd expect? And then central office, this is just the rest of it, right? Everything else that we're doing. We do have $1 million commitment to athletics. So students here do not pay athletic fees. And we have $1 million commitment to athletics at the high school level. And I'll talk a little bit later about our commitment to technology. Transportation at 1.2 million, again, because we lease our buses and we run our own bus transportation. That's a savings. To do that as a contracted service, I can tell you from experience in 2 prior districts I was in, 1.2 million was nowhere near what the budgets were for districts. And I was in a similarly sized district and it was a lot more than that. So if you see there, the big important thing there is that the expenses are 55 million and the revenue is 55 million with it a zero. So we really look at every dime we have and we apportion it appropriately. So this is the important thing. So how do we look at staff from year to year in an enrollment situation that's relatively stable? And you'll see here, our principals work really hard to keep the staff that they have. And they're also careful looking at IEP. So at Cushing School, they're going to go 1 fewer paraprofessional next year. That's not needed for IEPs moving. Hatherley, because they have an enrollment spike in 3rd grade, need an additional teacher in 3rd grade, and they need an additional special education teacher for one of the programs they have. But if you look down to Wampatuck, you'll see Wampatuck is donating an elementary teacher and a special education teacher to Hatherley. That's how you do it, right? So you try to keep it budget neutral as much as you can. However, at the end of the day, we do have to meet the needs of the students on their IEPs. And so most of the additional people or time here is around paraprofessionals. You'll notice at Wampatuck, the ECC, right under Wampatuck, the Early Childhood Center, we are adding Friday morning for our 4-year-olds for 5 days a week. So that's a budget cost to that, basically adding some time for paraprofessionals. So we're not adding any people, we're just adding more hours to the people that are already there. The big add here is probably a 0.6 drama teacher for 3 classes at the high school. We have a very robust middle school drama program with a full-time teacher. There's no such equivalent program at the high school. It's been on the list of things people have asked me for each of the last 3 years I've been here. And so it's a relatively inexpensive thing. We actually had, to be brutally honest, a retirement in the music department, and we hired somebody much less expensive and were able to fund the additional 0.6 with that savings. So it's really, that's how tight this is. I'm sorry? Peter Munt, Mr. Munt, sorry. I didn't want to say it out loud. Mr. Munt is awesome. You can, sure.
Because when I went to high school, we had a huge drama department. What happened?
So I don't know what the past history is. I know we do run plays. We have, a after-school program with a drama advisor, and we certainly run plays, but there's no courses during the school day. And I don't know if they ever had them and they went away.
Yeah, no.
I'm not sure. So right now we're trying to put it there. I think it's just one of those things that is an expectation when you're at a comprehensive high school. So,
Awesome.
And where I could do it for relatively neutral dollars with Mr. Munt's retirement, that made a lot of sense. And then in technology, we have what's called a technology paraprofessional right now who works during the school year at 184 days. We've spoken to her. We're going to increase her time to 220 days so she can work over the summer. It's as simple as that, and do the technology work over the summer for us. So all in, we're looking at 3.8%, 3.8 FTEs, understanding that all but the 0.6 in drama is special education related. And those are, the principals will always look to do transfers among the buildings and among their grade levels before they ask for an additional position. But in these cases, they have to happen because of enrollment issues.
So that's 3.8 from 2026 to 27.
Exactly.
But when you go from 25 to 27, we've got 7. We've still got a flat enrollment, and we've got 7 increased staff.
Understood. And all of those.
I just want to point that out.
Yep.
Because we're in a very tight time, and I think we've reduced staff by half. 3, 4, okay.
We are very, very mindful of it. I will tell you the only time, at least I've been here 3 years, so I don't have a lot of history beyond that. But in the last 3 years where we have increased staff, it's through special education needs. It's through students moving in. The other thing that we do here, which I'll tell you, is we have a very strong in-house special education programs. So not every town does this. Most towns will send kids out of out-of-district placements. They're a couple of $100,000 each. We have in-district special education programs at Jenkins, at Hathaway, at the middle school, and at the high school. And 2 years ago, just one example, the special education director came to me and said, you know, we have a bunch of kids going from 8th grade to 9th grade who in the program that they needed would normally have to go out of district. If we hire a teacher and a para, I can keep them in district. That's always going to be cheaper. So it looks like more FTEs, and it is, no question about it. What it's saving on the other end is the out-of-district placement costs, and that's hard to quantify, but it's very true because we've been able to keep the out-of-district placements at 3.9 million. So I heard, but that's the background of that.
And let me just point out one other thing. In that 7 going from 25 to 27, one of them is a food service worker. That comes from the food service revolving account. So we list them here just to give you an idea of how many people are in your buildings servicing our students. But that line does not come from the quote budget. That is completely separate. So that would be 6 in terms of the quote budget.
Right.
Understood. Understood. 100%.
I get it, but I mean, that's the question
Sure.
I would have as a taxpayer, right? So I think it's important to make sure that's there.
No, I'm glad we should absolutely talk about it because it's one of those things that we're always as a push and pull of where to spend the dollars, how to invest the dollars. Let's go to the next
Can I
one.
quickly
Oh,
follow up
of
on
course.
that?
Yeah.
Right, and so in my learning curve, obviously in a tight budget year, I agree with being cognizant of that. Relative to paras, being in the special education zone, we don't have a lot of control over having to hire certain paras because of the qualifications of the students that we have in our district, correct?
Yes.
So it's not necessarily in our control whether we do that legally.
What we can do is transfer them as much as possible before we add one, which we do. So if we know there's groups going from 5th to 6th grade or 8th to 9th grade, the paras will go with those students, the existing ones, but there's always kids that move in who need additional support. So 100%. So this is a chart that basically I took each school just so that you could see a summary of in what's involved in each school. There's not a whole lot of a story here other than we've kept supplies or expenses relatively flat. And as a matter of fact, we've cut them. So in Cushing, we've increased it by $10,000. We do need to keep Cushing going. We are going, it's going to shut down in June of 2027. But it's important that the students there have the best experience they can for the next 18 months. And so things break, you know, and we need to make sure that we're maintaining those things. Nothing major, but if something breaks, we do need to make sure we fix it. On to Hathaway, they're in alphabetical order. Similarly, a small increase in supplies. I think we overdid it last year with supplies for them and expenses. And it's not just supplies, it's also science, English initiatives that we're doing. So we're doing an open science program next year at the elementary level. That's also part of that supply budget. It really should say expenses because it's not just staplers and stuff. It's actual curriculum supplies and curriculum expenses. The increases at the elementary level are primarily driven by an open science curriculum that we're going to be piloting next year. Similarly, at Jenkins, the one thing that isn't explicit here, but is embedded in the supply line at Jenkins is money that I've given them each of the last 3 years to start replacing desks and chairs at each grade level. That building's 25 years old. Desks are starting to show their wear. We can't, I'm really not big on putting capital items forward for that kind of stuff. So what we did is we worked with the principals and said, you know, if I give you so much money every year for the next 3 or 4 years, can you slowly replace all the desks and chairs? And that's what they've been doing. So this is year 3 of that initiative. And Jenkins, I believe, has already done 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. They're heading down to 2nd. And then if you go to Wampatuck, similarly, they're doing the same thing. They're starting to replace their chairs and desks to maintain those schools. Those schools are here. We've committed to them. We need to make sure that we're maintaining them. In our early childhood center, the main increase there is the increase from 4 to 5 days for our 4-year-olds. We really wanted to give our 4-year-olds in the AM more time in preschool as they prepare for kindergarten. Similarly at Gates, now you'll see a significant decrease in Gates expenses. What we did this year, we replaced a social studies curriculum. Social studies curricula are very expensive. So it was a $400,000 initiative, roughly 200 at Gates and 200 at the high school. Next year's curriculum initiative is English. it's much less expensive. It's only about $150,000 to do what we need to do with them. So we've been able to save money in expenses and put it in other places to keep the total down. So you'll see, and anytime, just flip back one section, I just want to mention one thing. You see a negative 5,000 there in special education. This budget is also adjusted for any known retirements. So I mentioned Mr. Munn, but there's probably 6 or 7 other retirements that we know about. I will always bring that salary down to a master's 2, 3, 4 to adjust for that. So again, we're really taking every penny we can find to keep this budget in line.
Can I, when you say replacing curriculum, social studies this year, do you mean books, digital books, the actual
Everything.
physical curriculum side?
Yes, yes. Yeah, they're on a 5-year curriculum cycle. They work with Mr. Lynch, our assistant superintendent. And so every year, somebody's either approaching it, in it, post, they're always doing this ongoing curriculum cycle. So, and we keep moving the funds to each subject depending on what year they're in. Similarly, at the high school, the decrease wasn't quite as much because, again, we're trying to maintain the high school. I've given the high school principal money to replace desks and so forth there as well. So any of the buildings that are existing, we are committed to making sure that they stay functioning and that they stay welcoming places for our students. In athletics, I mentioned $1 million commitment in athletics. The increases there are contractual. All of our coaches have contractual increase, as well as all of the officials and so forth at all the games. So it's a pretty nominal increase for $1 million budget. But again, I think we run a pretty excellent athletic program. So that is funded by the operating budget. Our students do not pay fees. So again, these are just some overview. I talked earlier about the fact that we're well resourced for special education district salaries. You'll see it went from 12.7 and then it's planed out at 13, 13, 13 for FTEs. But this is where you want to be. Board certified behavior analysts, physical therapists, occupational therapists on staff working for our students, all in at a 3.2% increase, salary increase, which again is consistent. The teacher contract was 3%. I try to use that as kind of my metric for any kind of COLA increases. Similarly, with district expenses, this is where you see the special education expenses, a nominal increase of 29.8, but we did reapportion things. Again, with special education drivers, we are seeing increases in special education transportation like everywhere, but we are keeping them under control by having 6 vans that we keep on the road. We also broke out private school tuition and residential tuition about 2/3 of the way down, as provide a little bit more transparency and clarity around where that money is going. But again, this is a relatively nominal change in special education, and it's a credit to Dr. Bober, who has worked really hard over the last 5 years to keep our expenses in special education the same. And she's masterful at it and does a really great job to keep it that way. And this is ours. And the story here, we're 16 people at central office. That's not changing. Obviously, we're both interims. Things are moving around, but the base commitment to 16 central office salaries hasn't changed. And again, the 2.9 or 3% increase, we're keeping our salaries commensurate with where the teachers are at as well, as far as COLAs are concerned. Next slide. Central administration expenses. The big story here, there's not a whole lot of change. The 51,000 is primarily utilities for gas and electric. I under budgeted them a little bit last year. Cold winter. It looks like we're into this cold world now. So another 25,000 in gas and 20 in electric makes sense. The one area that stayed at 250,000, if you look about almost all the way down to building maintenance, we commit to $250,000 every year in the budget to maintain our buildings. But you'll notice in 24 and 25, we spent 496 and 415. That's very deliberate. So anytime in May and June, we have an opportunity to keep things put together, and we have an opportunity to make sure that we're keeping everything repaired. Filters in HVAC systems, new rooftop units, whatever it takes to keep everything going, we're doing that in our operating budget. If I talk about capital items, it's going to be big stuff. I really don't like doing little things in capital items. And so we are committed to maintaining the buildings that we have. And that 250 has been huge. It also allows us, if God forbid a boiler breaks or something big, we don't have to come to you for a capital item. I've got it. I'm almost done, I promise. Sure.
With respect to FY 26 budget, again, with the 250, are we anticipating an increase in that line come actual?
No, yes, yeah, the actuals will likely be over 250. But I don't budget higher than that because it really depends on savings in other areas, whether I have to, so,
You're using other budget items that we find
yes,
fair change.
yes, exactly. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's future savings by not having to prolong whatever the thing is that.
Yeah, if I don't know if any DPW type people or facilities people are here, but I'm trying to remember the formula, but every dollar of quote deferred maintenance ends up being $5 or more down the road.
Yeah. And I think,
Yeah, I know it's at least 5, it's probably more, but
They're proactive.
yeah.
No, thank you.
for some content, I probably first started 6 years ago when I started, there was maintenance money being spent, but that line item itself wasn't there. But now we see it and go through, essentially, even just psychologically having that to know and spend it, it's been.
It's huge, and we can fix things quickly. That's the key. When you have the funding available, we can fix things very quickly. Last 2 slides left, I promise. So technology salaries is simply salaries. It shows a 14.7% increase simply because we did move the Paris Sue Egan to 182 to 220 days.
And also we put Sarah here.
And we did add people to make it a clean look. Sarah Troxer, unfortunately, was left out of last year's budget. She's there, she works for us, she's awesome. So we just want to make sure that she's there and we're fixing that error. Technology expenses, this is another area that I like to highlight. You'll notice in FY24 it was 158,000, but at that time we were floating capital articles for technology. So we were floating $400,000 or $500,000 capital articles. When I started, I made a commitment to not doing that anymore. And we did one last one for switches 2 years ago. That money was spent, we used it. And so over the last 4 years, we've been able to increase that to $700,000. That allows us to avoid those capital items. So just like we're maintaining everything else, we're maintaining our technology as well. That allows a Chromebook refresh for our students. All of our students in grades 4 and up have Chromebooks. E-rate consulting is a federal program where we can get up to 40% back on certain technology purchases. And so, for example, when we did that $400,000 network switch article, we were able to get money in addition to that back from the federal government. So it works out really, really, really well.
So I had noticed that I had asked Nicole about that, and I wasn't sure that, so E-rate is actually something that we're getting, we're laying it out, but again, we're getting the credit back from the government.
Yes, the consultant is like $2,000, maybe $3,000, and we're getting hundreds of thousands back from the government. So it's a deal I'll take all day.
I noticed it was a large increase, but we're recouping some of that, so we're actually trying to make a positive choice.
Exactly. It's how I turned 700 into 8. And then finally, curriculum, similar commitment, right? So we are spending a lot of money investing in curriculum, whether it's this year social studies, last year math. We need to make sure our teachers are trained. We need to make sure we provide the professional development for them. It stayed relatively stable, but a $475,000 commitment in curriculum is not something that you see in every school system. And it really allows us to maintain the professional development of our teachers. They are well trained. We were able to hire a consultant to work with our math teachers this year. They can come back and continue next year. This year, we're training all of our administrators in teacher evaluation. So all of these things have a cost, but they have a much better benefit. And then finally, transportation. And again, like I mentioned, the $1.2 million, it doesn't feel like a bargain, but I'm going to tell you it is. So
And the service is much better.
and it is. We have our own drivers. We have our own buses. It just makes a huge difference. Again, there was a bit of a correction in the drivers. I didn't budget quite as many as I should have last year. So they did not get a 25% increase. But by adding a few people to their regular contractual increase, it looks that way. But again, we're always chasing these. We're always trying to make sure it's as accurate as we can. So that's the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's a 60,000 square foot presentation of our budget.
So sometimes,
so people can see us.
Say what?
You can come out of the presentation so people can
Yep.
see us.
there are times I think you need to understand to take victory lap. And I mean this sincerely because a lot of things are happening around in the world. I want to thank you. I want to thank Ms. Brandolini and Ms. Fenwick and the entire school committee, and the financial forecast team to show you what you can do if you're clear eyes, you're transparent, you have the data, you track it over years, and look where we are compared to, let me read this list for everyone else at home to understand this. Hingham, $2.8 million deficit. Norwell, $750,000 school deficit. Cohasset, $1.2 million school deficit. Duxbury, $600,000 school deficit. Abington, $7.7 million total budget they have to deal with. Marshfield, $4.5 million. Kingston, $1.2 million. East Bridgewater, $1.5 million. Whitman-Hanson, $1.1 million. Hanover's looking at $7 million. Pembroke, $3 million. Halifax, $2 million. We are not in that phase because of all of us working together. And I just want to thank you. I think taxpayers at home need to realize how great it is to work with all of you and to have the data and to have the transparency that's there. Nancy, Jen, everybody, this team up here, thank you. We're not out of the woods at all. We're not out of the woods. It's going to be tough, but these tough questions where we are, thank you, because it is, some of these towns are really struggling and it's really hard. I mean, I think Hingham laid off 26 staff. I mean, that's a lot. So anyway, I want to say that earnestly because I want others to see that by being clear and being honest up front, months ahead of time, makes a huge difference, and hopefully we can all count on it. But with that, open it to questions. I think we need to recognize what we've been able to do as a team versus a lot of other towns. Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Very helpful. And a lot of learning to me being a new board member, working with the school committee, working with the chair to really get a few educational sessions for myself. So it's been really helpful. And I had a conversation with Nicole earlier this week to really try to understand the presentation because there are a lot of questions I had. She answered a lot of them for me very clearly. So I really appreciate that. And it's extremely clear to me just how much effort the school committee is doing and your office is doing to put these things together so that we can get a very clear picture. So I really, really appreciate that. I think there really only a couple questions I had that hadn't already been answered for me. One was, obviously we have, for somebody that's new at this, we have a very large special education budget for what in just like math numbers is a very small number of students in a large, in a larger pie district. And I get that special education is extremely expensive. Nicole was very helpful in explaining to me how good a job we do at keeping the kids in our district, which saves us a lot of money per capita. One question I had was when it comes to transportation, just simplistically, I know that we've had issues with bus drivers, van drivers, retirements, et cetera. Are we in good shape with our drivers currently and into the near future?
We're okay. We're okay with our van drivers. Right now, we're contracting out for regular education, not special education, but regular education drivers through First Student. I would really prefer to hire 4 people. So we have people in training right now who will be able to take over in September. I can't guarantee we'll have 4, but we're certainly going to try and have less than 4. With special education, it's a mix. So we have the 6 vans that we run. One of the vans goes to Social Educational Collaborative, which is only in Hingham. Most of them do the in-town transportation. We do still have to contract out for some special education transportation for the longer rides, but we try to minimize that as much as possible. To be perfectly honest with you, it's cheaper to buy a van and hire a driver than it is to contract out some of these things. So as soon as we get more drivers, and we'll be advertising for them soon. So we're cautiously optimistic.
I know that Michelle and Andrea work to, whenever we can, we ride share. We know that we have a sped student going to school A. We check with the surrounding towns. Anyone else have a student going there? Now you've got, if possible, you've got 2 kids in a van instead of 1. That cuts the cost down. So there's a whole shareable database on that these people rely on. So again, hats off to both Michelle as the sped, director and Andrea, who's our transportation coordinator. God bless her.
Do you need a CDL for those vans or you just need it for the No, okay.
No.
No, it's
Advanced,
called
it's
a,
7D.
something 7D,
7D
thank you.
license.
Yeah.
Okay.
The buses, you need a CDL.
Yeah. which you-
With
Everyone
with a
needs
school
those.
bus certification. So it's
With the
not-
school bus
Right,
certification.
now it's not just a CDL, you have to get a special school bus certification as
Parallel
well.
park that selfie. In
I'm
the
sorry,
snow.
what?
Parallel park it.
Yeah.
The test is last.
That's the test.
The test.
My other question, was something that I didn't see in the presentation, and it actually was a question that came up to me from a resident, so, I thought it was a valuable question I wanted to ask and just kind of get some perspective.
Sure.
There's not really a lot of mention in the budget from what I can see for substitute teachers. And the question from a resident that I got this week was, knowing that the school board was coming to us, that it seems like the way this resident put it, our substitute teachers are the only town employees that don't get minimum wage or an equivalency of minimum wage for hours worked. And I don't know all the details, and this was a recent question that came up to me, but with regards to substitutes, I do know we struggle for substitutes. Do we have an ongoing plan to try and improve our supply of substitute teachers, as well as what we can do to try and create equity for people that are in our classrooms when we have teachers that are out?
Sure, it's a great question, and it is very close to minimum wage. I understand that. We budget $315,000 for substitute teachers across the board, and usually we exceed that in any particular given year. We are looking closely at trying to increase the sub wages. We recently increased the sub nursing wages because we needed to do that to be competitive. It's just one of those things that we're looking at, but always kind of hits a back burner in terms of how much more can we spend? Because, you know, even raising $10 or $15 a day multiplied by hundreds of people, hundreds of days, it adds up quick. So we're careful. I get it. We're careful. It's also important that we compare it to what our paraprofessionals are making too. We recently did a significant increase to our paraprofessionals in the last contract negotiations last year to try to bring them up to par, so that they were, you know, the specialized paras are making closer to $25 an hour, and our instructional paras are at $21 an hour, the lowest paid ones. With subs, we're not there, and I hear you. It's an issue. It's just not something that right now, given everything going on, we can just increase. But I hear it, and we've had people.
I'm not asking it critically.
Yeah, no.
I'm just asking it because I understand the same principle. Would you say, to fill in on that, relative to paras, obviously, like I was saying earlier, to my understanding, and Paul help me with this, we have very little legal recourse about certain special education requirements that are above us in state and federal guidelines. But when we talk about paras and subs, is it essentially a supply-demand curve relative to pay scales?
Very much so, yeah. To get quality paraprofessionals, I mean, we chose to make the investment there in terms of where we could find for additional. But I hear the issue 100%.
And thank you for that.
Good job, guys.
My compliments.
Thank you.
You guys do a great job, and I like your questions, Nico. The sub pay has come up in the past.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that we'll be able to find a way in the future, knowing that we're in tight times. But we've got to get that looked at and help those people along as we can. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. But the tech and the Warner amendments. Oh, did it? I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
So I have a bet with the superintendent. I bet he could be faster than Tom Robb in his presentation.
I'm winning that bet.
Yeah. What do you buy? What do you get?
Maybe we should figure that out.
Lunch at the grass.
All right, Mr. Chair, good evening, members of the board. Thanks for having me. I'm joined by your representative to our regional school committee and our school committee chair, Jack Manning. was one of the Brady Bunch squares on the screen, I noticed. So, and thank you, Seth, for helping me walk through these slides. Not only am I here to hit some of the highlights of FY27 budget proposal, but I'll also give you an update on our building project and round out with some updates on a warrant article that we'd be bringing to you as well regarding the potential admission of the town of Pembroke. So happy to, I'd encourage an interruption. If there's a timely question, please don't wait. I have a bet to win. So next slide. Thank you, Seth. So this is just an overview. You've had these slides were provided in advance, so I won't be spending equal time on each slide. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, so the brag sheet, highest enrollment in school history. We're looking at a 2-to-1 ratio for applications to admissions. Co-op is the jewel in the crown for us. We have over 100 students that are actively out on co-op. Seniors, mostly juniors, are starting to go out on co-op when they hit the midway point of their junior year. We compete very actively in state vocational competitions. Skills USA is one you've heard me perhaps talk about in the past, but I do want to brag a little bit about Future Farmers of America. Our 8-year-old horticulture program sent a group of kids to the state competition. And then a first for the Commonwealth is we had a student who was first in the nation for nursery landscape. So kudos to that program and our kids, as well as floriculture, 4th in the nation. So got a lot to be proud of, but we shine a light on our horticulture landscape program for that. We're also very happy that we continue to be, not only do we continue a gratitude tour on getting the support for our building project, but we are actively competing for grants. CTI is the Career Technical Institute. That's an adult ed night school program. We received the largest state grant recently for that. Skills Capital grants are also something that both recent administrations have been putting out. We're waiting to hear about a lab expansion grant we applied for $5 million that we, if we are fortunate to get that grant, we'll be able to push those dollars directly into this project and lower the overall cost. So we're very hopeful that they will recognize that we're in a perfect spot to take someone else's money to help fund a project that's been designed and is ready to begin construction. We're also pretty proud of this fire cadet program, thanks to fire chiefs in the area partnering with us, and we run an after-school kind of a fire cadet exploratory program, as it is difficult to get prospective employees in that pipeline. We're drawing from our own students as well as other interested high school students. And most recently, we got a $300,000 Clean Energy Center grant for our HVAC and automotive programs. The bottom line is these are dollars that don't show up in any capital budget, and makes it a little bit easier when we make presentations that you don't see a lot of vocational equipment that's having to pass through. Hi.
You said that there's a 2-to-1 application to acceptance ratio right now. Do you find that, say, over the last number of years, do you find that's increasing right now over the last few years?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we've definitely seen a trend, and we see an uptick. And one of my later slides will tell you that Scituate enrolled 30 kids for fiscal 22, and I'm going to show you 65 kids for fiscal 27. And we're seeing that in our region, and we see it across the state.
2 things. One, that's a huge deal to be number 1 in the country in some of the. That kid was number 1 basketball player in the country, even though his name was Cooper Flag, and never know. The fact that you had 2 kids top 5 in the country is a huge deal.
Thank you.
So
yeah, we're very
phenomenal.
Very, very happy with that. Thank you.
That's a great point when you talk about that, because I think when you start running those numbers, there are colleges that'll be easier to get into with higher acceptance rates than 2-to-1. I mean, that's incredible. People don't realize that. I mean,
it is. But with your support and the support of our communities, we are on a trajectory, once we can build responsible operating budgets, to be able to increase enrollment over time. And we should see that waiting list shrink. The demand, I do not believe, will shrink.
Great.
yeah, that's
I mean,
incredible.
I think that vocational education is very, very important.
Well, this town has shown that at the ballot box, and this is my 15th budget to bring to our communities as superintendent. And we have, I can't say enough about this town's support all of those years. So thank you. The next couple of slides continued, again, return on investment. We love doing municipal work. We love to find projects that directly give back to the communities who fund our school. On the next slide, the slides continue. Carpentry kids are working at the Mordecai Lincoln property. Again, perfect example of their curriculum in real time, return on investment for the community. And so I encourage our boards, town leadership, that and this town, we have strong partnerships here that, we want to be a partner. So if someone has an idea, they should give us a call, because we might be able to do something to help in some small fashion or larger fashion. As a school, we want to set some goals for ourselves. We are also looking at what's life like after MCAS, the competency determination. Our messaging to the state is, you've got to give local districts flexibility. We do not want the legislature prescribing requirements that don't give K-12 districts, vocational districts, that make it too prescriptive. They've done some good work. There's going to be more in the media and in the public square on this topic. But I feel pretty good about the curriculum that we offer, of course, the technical side, but also our academic side. We're halfway through implementing, I think, a rather successful cell phone policy, some service expectations for all of our students. And I'll speak to this if there's time, if you have time, regarding the implementation of our admissions lottery. But we also restructured our school day to add an additional block of instruction, to add in more time for expanded PE and wellness courses. So, and our staff are getting some professional development on AI. And so I'm pleased with the aggressive goals. These are all embedded in our school improvement plan. So it's important to touch on this, even though so much of what I go on and on about are numbers and percents, that there are some driving factors behind what we're trying to do here. Thanks, Seth. Yeah, we build the budgets from zero. You'd expect that. We have to put we have cost obligations. There are fixed costs, but it doesn't mean that we don't look and make sure that we're not, that we're accounting for something, so that when we do bring numbers, our assessment numbers are volatile. In the 9 communities, and I live in our district as well, departments are held to a certain percentage, but then the VOC-TEC assessment could be up double digits or down double digits. So it's either rotten fruit or ticker tape parade. Like, what's happening? Why is this happening? And oftentimes, more often than not, it is enrollment driven. And that'll be the slide I'll show in a little bit. That for the third time in the last 4 years, we're seeing an uptick in enrollment. But by starting the budget process at zero, being aggressive with our grants, using our own vocational programs to help with maintenance, we do think that we're able to help to, in some small way, control for costs. This is a 1,000-foot view of enrollment. We could have much larger numbers than this, but the building is limited, and budgets are limited as well. But what we see here is still a steady increase. I think I've run out of custodial closets to convert into anything. We're pretty much peaked where we are, and so we'll coast for the next couple of years. But truly, we've done everything we can so that we are not saying no to a family from any of our towns because we didn't get creative about take that wall down, make that shop bigger, et cetera. So I'm proud of where we are. And then the next slide shows the breakdown by our communities, and you can see the line for Scituate, and there's a 7-student increase. I would have said this to you a year ago, and probably the year prior to that based on a graduating senior class and the demand of rising 9th graders, we'll probably see an increase similar to that. Could be a little bit lower, but it's easy to take the delta between graduating seniors and potential incoming freshmen. Once we enroll 4 grades of students that are meeting the current demand, I think we will see the number begin to level off for a bit. But for now, you can see, that's quite an increase in enrollment in the last 5 years. And I appreciate that you have seen that what drives our number is really where the students and families want to be. So here's the overall budget proposal. This is a unique year. I'll probably have to do this a couple more times, so my apologies in advance. I tried to find a visual that would answer the question. So I'll go to the yellow. I think the answer is, what's the budget increase? And the overall increase is, I have it at 5.98%. But there's a big number at the top, and that's because we're starting to see projected interest from the building project rolling on. In my 9 communities, I have some who have excluded the debt and some who have not. But we're required to bring you one number, and then the town leadership breaks it out appropriately. So we honor that by saying, when I look at there's about $1.17 million of projected interest. I'll speak to that in just a moment, but that's baked into that number at the top. So that's all the dollars we asked for in 26 and all of the dollars in 27. When you back out the debt, I'm at an operating and capital budget because capital is not separately funded. We put all the numbers in, but our capital budget includes $110,000 for buses. Much like you folks, we own our own buses, employ our own drivers, and I'm on a trajectory. We have a fleet of propane buses, and within a few years, we'll have to start to cycle them out. So I really am looking to avoid any kind of assessment spike in 2030 or so. So if we can put a little bit of money away, we'll be able to kind of level that off. The other lines would be if people wanted to know, we want it to be apples to apples. So the lowest line is just operating to operating. And then the one above it, that's 5.32. Well, the other factor that's unique, it's dwarfed by the debt number, but now that we're getting ready to do this building project right on our athletic fields, we will be the perennial home/really away team for our fall and spring sports for the next 5 years. I've said to our school committee that we're going to have to join we have also not needed to assess user fees for families of student athletes, but I'll be bringing a partial recommendation that we've asked our towns for a lot. This is an expense as a result of where we're building the new school. And so there will be a user fee scheme set up that will be generating some additional revenue. So I'm thinking that the cost of the vehicle transportation, our bus drivers, the rental of fields, right now I'm looking at it's about $130,000. That's a unique ad. Once we're back home to regular home games, I'd like to see that sunset out. That would be great. But I think we have a responsibility to say this is an extraordinary expense. Let's find ways to fundraise and do all the great things that many of our towns do. But that's also baked in. But if after all the blabbing, there's one number, I would say it's the number in yellow that's the closest to a typical budget, apples to apples, which is basically take out the debt. What are you left with? And at the bottom, at the bottom, the thumbnail is Scituate's up 7 kids. The projected assessment's up 111,000 compared to fiscal 26. Thank you. And then here's the breakdown. This is the other document that I would have sent along, which gets really into the weeds on how did you come up with all these numbers? But I did want to at least summarize it here on one slide. So the top number in the upper right corner, the 1.2, that's Scituate's assessment. But of that number, the number that the state provides after the governor's numbers dropped in late January, the minimum local contribution for Scituate for our school was $1,171,416. Now I've never seen it that close to the total, the percentage of the minimum local contribution. That's a combination of many factors, flat state aid perhaps, municipal revenue growth factor that impacts each town, shifts in enrollment in our communities. But we do have other elements to our budget that I'll just point out to you and be happy to unpack it any other time if you'd like. But there is a capital share based on a 3-year rolling average. So that 110 grand I was talking about for buses, Scituate's share of that's about 8,500. We have transportation costs. Those are operating costs that we segregate and label as transportation. We're assuming that 87% of that will be reimbursed. The governor was calling out about 87%. So we're using the governor's number. And we're saying, here's our transpo budget, back out 87% and divvy up the rest amongst our towns. And then there are other costs above the minimum, other costs to operate the schoolhouse that aren't transportation and that aren't in the minimum. And then there's a debt service number. And I'll speak to debt service a little bit more in a moment. Then the very last line is an offset because we do collect non-resident tuition and we use it to offset the next year's assessments. And we are planning to take money out of our stabilization fund. And the new member community, Marshfield, contributes an additional $39,000 every year, which we push back to our existing 8 communities. That's all broken down on one of the other slides that I've given you. The messaging on debt service, just to be clear, is that the $1.17 million in anticipated interest, we are anticipating and are planning to cover that entirely, whether our communities have excluded the debt or not. And that's through a combination of anticipated interest income and money that we have in our stabilization fund. We love when a plan comes together. Plan your work your plan. You let us put money away in the years leading up to finally letting MSBA say yes. And now we're pushing those chips back in. We did it for this year, very small amount of money. We're going to do it for 27. 28 is a different story. I'll show you that on another slide. But that is our philosophy. If we have stabilization money and we're going to exhaust that money to give back, to do whatever we can. And again, just because a town has excluded the debt, it's still money and it's still hitting residents. So that money is there for this specific purpose. So for 27, we're going to show you all the numbers. We're going to show you the breakdown because we have a formula in our regional agreement, but then we're going to show the revenue side as to how we're covering it. Yeah, between Tom's earlier presentation and mine, flat state aid, here's what I'm holding out for. Even though our enrollment's gone up the last 2 years, we're still now considered a minimum aid district. We're getting $75 a kid. So that's an added, that's 51,600. But what I'm hearing, what I think we have to, I would respectfully suggest any communications with our legislative delegation in the region is to make sure that the legislature can deliver as it did last year, that the minimum, if there is a community that is in hold harmless, if there's a community that is not seeing an increase in Chapter 70 other than this minimum aid, that the legislature did juice that up to 150 a kid last year. The governor's budget calls 75. It will benefit SPS, it will benefit us to see how we can get that number to 150 a kid. That would be great.
We can get more info on that at a future meeting. We can discuss it maybe and vote to send a letter off or a delegation.
Yeah, I think that's almost now with so many districts in the Commonwealth in that minimum aid category or that hold harmless category where they're not seeing growth in enrollment, and changes to the formula and inflation factors are basically showing increases in the minimum local contribution. That's what's causing the pain with town leadership having to balance school budgets as well as non-school budgets. I mentioned transpo, non-resident, debt service. I mentioned Marshfield. Look at this, I covered it all. What are our cost drivers? Lather, rinse, repeat. It's the same story. Plymouth County Retirement, health insurance, utilities. We have extra costs in our regional entity, OPEB and things like that. You hear me say that every year, but certainly health insurance, utilities, and Plymouth County Retirement are driving the budget bus a bit.
Talking about that later, not to worry.
I bet you will. Thanks, Seth. Okay, this is a busy slide. Let me explain the top part. So I have a list of positions that I want to be able to bring into the school, but my top line says this: personnel based on retirements, restructuring, and $43,180. So what does that mean? I have some retirements coming up. I'm trying to plan wisely and use existing dollars. I have a couple of positions that I think I'm able to restructure. I reduced one position and I'm able to slide some dollars over. So and I won't read this whole list, but they are important. The first three bullets are existing positions where I've come to you in the last several years and say, I'm kind of a radical incrementalist. I want to absolutely keep moving needles where we can. We've got to get people off of grants. We can't become over-reliant on grants. I've got to make space. The electrical teacher, the adjustment counselor, a carpentry aide, these are absolutely essential positions. But the more we become dependent on grants, if something is volatile, then we have to make those adjustments. These other positions I'm looking for here would only happen if the retirements and the restructuring actually fall into place. I can't do them simultaneously. I need to know that if someone says they're not, if the folks I think are retiring are not retiring, then you don't do both. So that's me wanting to position ourselves where we do need to expand our allied health program. To get 106 kids out on co-op, we have to do safety site visits. There is additional funds we have to push into that. We do need additional staffing. School business manager is a position that I'd like to be able to. I have a grant that could fully pay for a school business manager salary, but I only know the grant's around for a year. So I'm not going to go all in on something like that until I know that we can build something even on a part-time scale. And at the bottom, the forecasting is what you would have heard me talk about in previous conversations, which is if we're heading towards a new school with 2 new vocational programs, veterinary. I'm losing this bet, Jim. I've lost this bet. I owe you a Reese's or something. The vet science position, new shop, the plumbing shop as well as well as a bigger building, custodians, bus drivers. So that's a forecast. We'll save that fund for the next couple of years. But that is, for me, we have some essential positions when we open the building. So I'll speak to you more about that. But I intend to use grants to help. We should be able to compete for state grants to open vet science. That could help fund some operating costs for a year or two, as well as the Perkins grant, which could help fund the rest of our plumbing program. That's a busy slide. Thank you for your patience on that. This next slide, similar to what you saw with Tom's presentation, we also get federal entitlement grants. This is just an overview of what we get and where the money has historically gone. That's the last budget slide, other than a quick wrap up. You want me to, Mr. Chair, I can continue to work on building project or pause here?
Yeah, we can do the building.
Thanks. We're on schedule. Shovel in the ground in June. Bid packages will fully out in April. It's a 2-year window. We'll be in construction from June of 26 through June of 28.
On time, on budget.
Yes. It's early, but I'd like to say that the refrain is going to stay. As we pressure test the numbers, and we have double sets of independent estimators looking at everything, and we have a value engineering list ready to deploy, if needed, I think we're well positioned. And going out for some early bid packages on site work and concrete right now, certainly helps. We open the building. Yep, we open the building for 28-29, and then we do the demo during the 28-29 school year. That's my direct line, contact info, as well as a project website. In terms of the borrowing, I'm putting together some more detailed information that I'll give to Nancy and Jim. But this is roughly you borrow money and you pay interest, then you start bonding it. So we'll start bonding in 29, and we'll renew one more band. And then when MSBA closes the project out in 31, we'll have a second smaller bond in 31. I'll be able to break those numbers down for you in greater detail. But it really is, and you can see that the third bullet, fiscal 28, will have bond anticipation notes of around 151 million. So you can see how that number scales up. Our stabilization monies won't be able to cover the 5 million and change. So those are the numbers I want to start forecasting, so that everyone is aware. Again, I have some communities that haven't excluded the debt, some who have, but it still is. Everyone wants to know, because there is a ripple effect somewhere. So it's in our best interest to keep our communities as well informed. As soon as we know something, we share it, so that folks have an opportunity to comment and get more information. Yep. Thank you. And then this slide here is the last topic that's you have as agenda item, which deals with the regional agreement amendment for Pembroke. So there's a warrant article similar to what you would have seen from me a few years ago when we brought in the town of Marshfield. The town of Pembroke is interested in joining. Our school committee put forward a regional agreement amendment, and it was approved at a Pembroke special town meeting back in October. What's involved? Allowing Pembroke to join the district for the 27-28 school year. The most common questions I would anticipate folks in our communities asking would be, what's the process? At least 6 of our 9 sitting communities would have this matter in front of them, and they would approve it. If that doesn't happen, the matter does not go forward. It also needs to go back to the town of Pembroke, where they need to vote in the spring of 26, a debt exclusion and an operating override. Is there a savings to bringing on another community? Yes, there is. Based on enrollment projections that I've done, the size of Pembroke, the likelihood that they would fill all of their seats, I would anticipate that by fiscal 32, they could, using real numbers, 20 seats per year, 80 students in a currently sized school, I would anticipate about there would be a 10% readjustment of some of the debt and operating costs, going forward. But the other side of that coin is, if you let someone into the district, there's a scarce resource you're sharing. So what about the sharing of seats? The messaging is that if Pembroke were to join under these terms and conditions, they would be afforded 10 seats in the 27-28 school year, and then they would be apportioned based on our current formula, which is the size of the 8th grade class, which I'm averaging at about 20. So what could that mean for a community like Scituate? It would mean probably 1 seat reduction in the allotment, and then possibly 2 to 3 seat adjustments in 28-29, but that those reductions would be offset when we're able to scale up the enrollment. So this is a building that's going to go from 700 to 900. If Pembroke becomes 80 of that 200 seat increase, there would still be additional capacity for our member communities. So that's probably, those are three kind of lanes of questions that at any point I would welcome opportunities to give you more information.
The new bill with the new max capacity would go into effect for 334.
The message I've tried to be consistent about without sounding greedy is we could fill it as soon as the towns can afford it. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. That timeline would be great. If I knew that we could add more academic staff, increase the size of the freshman class, right? But for now, my priority is staffing 2 new voc programs, which I think will be very popular. We need to clean the building with custodial staff, and we're going to need bus driver capacity.
But in a selfish sense, Scituate would be looking at, by including Pembroke, we might be getting some marginal savings in the town side of the budget, but we're losing a seat for a student in our community for 3 to 4 years.
Yes, I think that's a reasonable summary. Yes, and all of this, I do a lot of projections, and I just comes back to kind of like is past prologue. So Norwell and Cohasset have historically not filled all of their seats. I'm using that. I mean, I'm talking like maybe maybe back in the 70s, Norwell might have filled their seats, but so for decades they haven't. So I'm relying on that being a continued trend. And but in the town of Scituate and the town of Hanover, in the last 5 years, those earlier slides say there's a sea change of interest. So if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said Situate's leaving seats on the table. Not anymore. So yes, I would agree. That's a fair summary. Yeah. The other, and I'm sorry, Seth, just real quick, the last line here, the second bullet I think is important because part of what's baked into the agreement, that second bullet, is that Pembroke will also fund a share of the stabilization fund, similar to what Marshfield has done, and they'll also contribute additional operating costs to fund the actual students in the building. As you know, everything with Chapter 70 is a 1-year lag. But what we're looking to do with Pembroke is to say, if you're enrolling students, we're going to assess you on a different metric outside of 70, outside of everything else. But if there are 30 kids in the building this fiscal year, kind of like a non-resident tuition model, which is you're paying for the kids that are in the seats right now and not waiting for a 1-year lag. What does that do? It simply puts more dollars into play for the district budget. My forecast with that money would be that those funds in that second bullet will help to offset any modest capital budget for buses for fiscal 30-31. That's where I see us an infusion of funds there if that comes to fruition.
Sorry, can I ask one more
No,
question?
don't apologize.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding that last year, or this year and next year, you're planning on essentially using the stabilization fund to augment the budget. Are you fully planning on eliminating the stabilization fund's current budget or current resources over the next 1, 2, 3 years?
I would anticipate it being exhausted in fiscal 28.
So if that stabilization fund is exhausted, not eliminated, but exhausted, the purpose of Pembroke adding to the stabilization fund is to rebuild it over the next few years?
Yeah, and our with a brand new building, what do I have to complain about? The money's going to go to buses. That's truly where it would go. We're going to bring over a lot of the great equipment we have. A lot of it's been recently funded by state grants. So we're going to position ourselves well so that I don't want transportation to be a story in 3 or 4 years. We've got enough going on. But yeah, that's
We don't have a vote on the warrant, we just have a.
Right.
And Mr. Chair, the last slide, just to wrap up with budget, is this is more for just in terms of when will other towns be making decisions. You can see where our communities stand, and so we're on the road in the wintertime to go talk to FinCom's advisories and select
Oh, we're
boards.
first.
Yes, always, yes.
We could just say yes first. Always.
Nice, thank you. Yeah. So thanks very much. And if Mr. Chair, if it's all right, I could just do a brief update on our lottery. And so Thursday at 2:30, for those families who have applied for rising 9th graders, they'll receive a communication, or they have, that will be running the lottery online and it's all towns, we're running it all at once. We've got 34 applications for 31 available seats. That's as of a meeting I had at 1:00 this afternoon. So kids can still apply in all of our communities. There's a late application pool for each of our communities. So what's going to happen on Thursday is it's going to be rather anticlimactic. We did a test run of what it would look like on the screen. It's rather boring, but someone's going to hit a button and it's going to just show a bunch of student ID numbers, no names. But every single Scituate family who has a child who's applied has an ID number. They have a login to a software program called Schoolmint, and we will list all 34 applicants from 1 to 34. 31 students will get an immediate email that says, you've been offered admission. 3 students will get an email that says, you're on the waiting list. You are number 1, 2, or 3. And then families have 5 business days to respond. If there's a decline or there's a non-response, we go immediately to the next person on the list. If someone is late to applying, like I said, they go into a late application pool. But this is a model that is a state mandated model. I'll leave it at that. And we're going to try to run the system with fidelity and efficiency, and that'll happen on Thursday. So thank you for allowing me to expand on that, because this is brand new for all of our communities. The only communities for which we wouldn't run a lottery would be if we have a community where there aren't as many applicants as, if the seats outstrip the applicants.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the one thing I would say to any board member, if you hadn't not been to the VOTEC, let me know.
Absolutely.
I'd be happy to give you a tour. It is an amazing facility, so take advantage of it if you get a chance to go up there. I know Susan's been up
I
there.
got a tour.
Yes, you did.
I did. It was great.
So,
I was doing hall duty when you walked
With a
by.
bunch of kids, because my kids are rising.
yeah, so I really take advantage if you can, to get up and get a tour of the building. They really do a great job up there.
Yeah, any of your Aggie students wanna come garden at a nonprofit Scituate?
Cook you this.
It's long to put 2 and 2 together. Community garden and community.
I was gonna ask,
Well,
the Mordecai if they wanna build a gazebo.
Well,
We did reach out to them on that.
Yeah, we can't
Unfortunately,
wait
the
2
timing
years.
they'll be looking for sometime in 2028.
Yeah.
That really doesn't time out what we want to do, so.
but your idea with I gave, giving flowers to our horticulture program for what they did. But to be honest with you, our campus is there's going to be like 8 blades of grass for them to work on. We actually need our horticulture program to be off campus much more than ever before. We don't have any fields to maintain. The wonderful grounds on the front of the campus on Webster Street, that's going to become temporary parking this spring. So my phone number and email.
Up Clap Road.
They're wonderful. Those are the partnerships that we just.
Amazing, thank you,
wanna-
I asked.
Yes.
The kids will be back tomorrow, Thursday, to do the deck at the water canal.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you can tell how wonderful a job you're doing because people are voted with their feet.
Yeah.
You see the enrollment, and it's quite obvious.
Yeah, we're happy that every family gets their kid the high school education they want. So thanks for your support. Thanks again. Okay.
Good news. Back to that. I love it. All right, we are, we're full time, but all right, sidewalk subcommittee. Seeing the Bennett's on.
Yes, several people are.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Zoom. Nico. I'm gonna let you lead this. I
They
did.
can't see it on TV if you have it there.
Well, they know.
I got it on my,
They have,
Oh, it's, yeah.
they're gonna stay?
oh, wait.
You not locked in?
Well, while we're setting up, people at home, so we're talking about a subcommittee that was put together to look at all the different, so we did about 10, 15 years ago, we had a group of residents try to create a list of sidewalks new sidewalks. Thankfully, this group that was put together, I want to thank everyone that participated. It's a new list, but it also includes repairs. So it's also both new sidewalks and repairs. We actually have a structure and a way to do this thoughtfully. It's, again, one of the things we should be able to do in town is build and maintain sidewalks. And it's very important for folks, so with that, I will.
Thanks. So, and I will very quickly just introduce it and turn it over to the subcommittee because they are the ones that deserve 100% of the credit for putting months of effort into this over the last 5 months, but really 2.5 years of effort into it prior to that. So, Donna Hamill's here, Mark Curran, Andrew Bennett, and Scituate Pizza are online with us tonight. And 4 of them have been the committee that's been running under the AEC over the last 5 months plus. We've essentially put about weekly effort into this over the last 5 months. It's been wonderful to watch the work. And I think they've done a tremendous job of taking a ton of information from past history all the way back to 2007 that I'll let them talk about, all the way through recent times, including the public forum that the subcommittee ran to collect data and information and additional requests from our residents. So they've really done a great job, including putting together the metrics you're going to see shortly. So I'm really impressed and proud of what they've done, and I really think that it's going to be a very useful living document that we're looking to take adoption of for the town. So
have a plan. We're finally gonna have a plan. I love it.
Love it.
How are you?
I'm good, yourself.
I know it took longer than, but this.
Yeah, it's been like 3 years since the first time I was here talking about Hatherley.
We're here.
I think it was longer. I think it was longer than that. I probably was. Being generous.
We're here today, and it's fabulous. We're gonna have a plan. It's gonna really take. It's gonna take years or so. Kick it off.
Well, who's gonna open it?
Oh, sure.
If Seth could put up the display, the first screen in the deck, which is the agenda, that would be great. And before we start, I'll just say that we are definitely going to win the bet tonight for the quickest presentation. So I'm not sure who to collect from, but I'll talk to somebody after that.
Jim will be in touch.
So,
Nico's gonna pay for everything.
Good evening, everybody. And I'm Sue DePiece, a member of EDC and a member of the Scituate Sidewalks Subcommittee, which is part of EDC. We're excited and pleased to present to the Select Board and to the Scituate community with our recommendation for new sidewalks as well as repairs for Scituate. So first off, thank you again to the Select Board and everyone else who's in attendance and out there watching and listening to the presentation for the evening. And special thanks to Andrew and Nico and the EDC members as well for their guidance and support through the process. Just a quick housekeeping request. We know people will have questions and we certainly welcome them. However, so the committee can make the full presentation and be respectful of the time and win the bet, we ask that questions are at the end of the presentation if possible. So at this time, each member is just going to give a quick their own introduction, and we're going to start with Donna, if that works.
Okay. Donna Hamill, and for the record, my last name is spelled Hamel, 2 L's. But anyway, thank you again for having us. I'm going to keep this brief, so I'm going to read it. Otherwise, I'll just ramble.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, what we're doing here is we're not proposing anything new. This has been going on and on and on, as we talked about. So back a little history. In 2007, the board accepted a sidewalk study that identified and prioritized streets where sidewalks would improve safety and connectivity. In 2016, the board adopted the Complete Streets policy, which set out how sidewalk and roadway improvements would be evaluated and implemented, including the formation of a Complete Streets Committee. While some of the original sidewalk recommendations have been completed, I think 10 out of the original 20, the committee envisioned in the policy was never formally established. As a result, sidewalk projects have largely proceeded on an ad hoc basis rather than through a consistent townwide framework. In 2022, residents petitioned for a sidewalk along Havley Road, collecting over 300 signatures in support. That effort prompted a renewed review of the town's existing policies. In 2025, a group of residents reassembled, this group, and ultimately achieved formal subcommittee status to carry out the work envisioned by the Complete Streets policy. Since that time, the subcommittee has held a well-attended public forum, received more than 90 follow-up emails from people as a result of that forum, residents, conducted on-site evaluations of all the recommended streets, and presented its findings to the Economic Development Commission, which unanimously supported advancing these recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. Seth, if you could put up page 2. As background, what we did, each qualifying street was evaluated using clear, objective criteria drawn from the 2007 sidewalk study and updated for current conditions. These factors include safety, connectivity, accessibility, and the number of residents and users who would benefit. This creates a transparent, repeatable method for prioritizing sidewalk investments townwide. We believe this approach provides consistency, reduces future ad hoc decision-making, improves public transparency, and positions the town to compete more effectively for state and federal grants. And with that, Seth, if you go to the next screen, page 3, I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, Sue. Donna, sorry about that. As Donna just mentioned, we tried to be as quantitative and as objective as we possibly could. We're not going to walk you through all these numbers that you're looking at on the page right now. My job is just to quickly kind of orient you to the structure of the scorecard, if you will. Starting on the left-hand side, that first column just kind of gives you a sense for the source of the recommended projects, whether it came from us as the subcommittee or from the public. We had public input, as Donna mentioned. And so you can see that about 18 of the projects on the list came from the subcommittee. About 20 of them came from public input. So we feel like there's a pretty representative list of projects on here for us to evaluate. Total of 38 altogether. The third column shows you the sort of the starting point of each of the projects. The fourth column gives you what we consider to be the end point for each of the projects. I'm going to skip over the rank and the total score column for just a second. If you go to safety, connectivity, accessibility, and the beneficiary columns, those are, as Donna mentioned, those are the scoring factors that were used for us to objectively evaluate all of the projects. And then if you go all the way to the right-hand side, wherever you see an X, those are projects that were recommended back in the 2007 report, just to kind of give you a sense for a little bit of the history behind where some of these projects came from. So altogether, as was mentioned, it took us about 5 months to kind of run through, do our evaluations, put some shoe leather out there to take a look at these various projects. And the result is the full scorecard that you can see in front of you right now. And at this point, I think I will turn it over to Andy to talk about a map that resulted from that.
Oh, Andy, you're on mute.
Andy, you're muted.
Good evening, everybody. This is Andy Brennett. Live on Curtis Street. And thank you, Mark and Donna and Sue, for those introductions and leading us to this point. At this point, Seth, if you could go to the last slide in the deck. Thank you. So this map should make it much easier to visualize these street sidewalk locations. As you can see on this map, the streets highlighted in blue represent those where there's an existing sidewalk on that street. Those highlighted in orange represent those that were among the streets that our subcommittee was initially evaluating and proposing that a sidewalk be constructed. And then those in pink are the streets suggested to receive sidewalks by the public during or shortly after the public forum that we had this past November. Also, the last street segment highlighted in purple is the one on Stockbridge Road, already in progress. Lastly, the segments of streets that have a black rectangle around them are those that are included in our recommended top 10 list of streets to have new sidewalks built on them. Please note that you can see the list of recommended top 10 streets and their cross-reference numbers in the lower left-hand portion, as well as the corresponding numbers shown alongside the recommended street segment in the body of this map. As you can also see, the recommended top 10 streets sidewalks are distributed across most of the town. Thank you. And now back to Sue.
Thanks, Andy. Seth, could we go back to the first screen of the overall agenda? Great, thank you. So limits and exceptions. First of all, it's important to emphasize that no consideration or bias related to the cost or perceived cost of constructing sidewalks on any street was factored into the evaluation. Cost analysis was not within the subcommittee's scope or mission. This allowed us to make recommendations based solely on each street's physical characteristics, the accuracy and completeness of the scoring system, and the total points and relative ranking each street earned. We also aimed to limit the recommended sidewalk length on any individual street to what we considered a manageable maximum of approximately 3,500 linear feet. There are a few exceptions to this guideline, each for specific and well justified reasons. Priority exceptions, Beaver Dam Road and Hollitt Street. The subcommittee determined that the Beaver Dam Road and Hollitt Street warranted higher prioritization than their raw scores alone would suggest. Both streets already have sidewalks along a substantial portion of their length, and completing the remaining segments would create meaningful connections to multiple other sidewalked streets. Additionally, the new sidewalk segments on both streets would cross railroad tracks, areas that are currently particularly hazardous for pedestrians. The safety factor was significant enough to elevate Beaver Dam into our current top 10 recommended list. Hollitt Street, even without this special consideration, would have ranked within the top 10 based on its score. State aid and cost consideration, although the cost was not part of our scoring or recommendation process, we felt it was important to note that MBTA-related funding may be available for sidewalk construction on Beaver Dam and Hollitt due to their railroad crossings. Separately, any sidewalk construction along 3A requires state review and approval, as you all know, may involve applying for state grants and is expected to be costly and time-consuming. As a result, while 3A segments appear in our recommendations due to their importance, they may naturally fall lower in priority over time as other projects become more feasible to advance. We included these segments to reflect their long-term significance while still ensuring that other high-value streets could appear on the top 10 list. Finally, living document, this score sheet and list of recommended top 10 streets for sidewalks to be built is dynamic and perpetually changing, especially in additional sidewalks. As additional sidewalks are constructed, construction costs are determined, approvals from the state are taking a significant amount of time, as well as other potential challenges are faced. This score sheet and list of recommended streets should be updated at least annually to reflect their new total scores and relative rankings. For example, if the number 2 ranked Old Oaken Bucket segment has a sidewalk, but on its next year, built on it next year, then that would result in an increase in Grove and Maple Street scores, as now they would be adjacent to newly constructed existing sidewalk, thereby increasing their connectivity scores. Or if the score of the ranked number 1 Chief Justice Cushing Highway segment is too costly, and or the state approval process let's say, several years, then all of the remaining streets projects would move up a ranking level. And an aforementioned 3A segment would drop to a rank that's about 2 years away from being able to begin, and so on. That all being said, I'm going to turn it over to Donna again.
Okay, if we could go to the slide that I think is the page 5, repairs. Okay. We also spend time looking at streets, again, in-person on-site evaluations of streets that have existing sidewalks but are in very poor repair. And we compiled this list. From what we understand, there is a budgeted item for repairs. So again, we didn't get into the numbers, but we are presenting this as to be applicable towards that budget. Curtis Street has a full-length sidewalk, but it is badly in need. It has no curves. It's really a safety issue. The traffic on that street is quite high. So, that's one of the streets that came out on top of the list, and all of the rest can go down. There are several other streets, sidewalks that result in the amount of repair. And again, this would include curbs and everything else. So this is something that we really believe that we can see, but obviously public is again going to be calling on a regular basis. So again, we want this to be a living document, not just something that's static. And I just want to mention that throughout our entire process, we have received overwhelming support for the construction and repair of these sidewalks from the residents of the town. All of them see this as a major safety concerns, getting their kids out so they can actually ride and walk on a safe street, and also, to improve property values and just to make it a much more livable, connected town. And with that, I think I'm going back to Sue, right?
Oh, yep. Okay, great. Seth, if you could please go to number 4. Thank you. Final top 10 sidewalk recommendations are what you see right here. Here again, this is the list of recommendations that we came up with. And that's basically the end of our presentation. We're happy to answer questions. But we did win at 17 minutes.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll tell you why this is so much even better than I think people realize. The art of the possible by not even having upfront with some of those comments. I'll tell you why that's actually brilliant. Because now we're able to actually have this list. We can talk to DPW, we can talk to even the school department because they're looking for grants and other. Now we finally have an area. And Sue, you said it, which I didn't even realize until you just said that, since we've been working on the older ones for 10 years ago, once you put in a new sidewalk, the attractiveness to then reconnect and connect from there totally changes the equation, why it needs to be a living document.
Which we felt was really important, and I think one of the reasons that I'll put a plug in this way that the committee cannot say, I apologize. That I hope when the document sort of becomes the adopted roadmap, that the sidewalk committee has already stated their hope that whether it's the current structure or some other structure through EDC or the select board, that there'll be a yearly review that helps us to understand, has something been built, has something changed that scoring system, and that way that we don't have to rebuild this map and we don't have to rebuild the wheel every year.
Yes, and this subcommittee is committed to continue to work in that vein. Something that we really want to be a part of and want to continue to contribute.
Yeah, I think we should do this. Put it on the calendar now for next year, at least we'll know.
Healthy, very healthy.
Very healthy. To kind of review this to see what we've done and not done. So we in who's favoring that, and we'll go to more questions. So Shari will for next February.
Could I just ask a question on the your page 5 repairs? There's 2 streets listed areas that have no comments. And I was just wondering why there's no comments, and is there some verbal comment that could be made on those 2 streets? Yeah, the Hadley Road the first parish to Chief Justice Cushing. What needs to be repaired?
So just to clarify, it's not from Gannett to Hatherley, it's Gannett from Hatherley to Glades. The first
Fair.
column is the name of the road that you're talking of,
Fair.
that there is
Oh,
from
yeah.
and to, starting
Okay.
and ending.
Hatherley to Glades,
Uh,
Chief Justice Cushing to
I can
Pheasant Hill.
tell you, I walked over.
And if anybody else has comments, but generally
too.
speaking, those comments came from the committee as we researched them or public input,
Well, there's a
so.
lack of comment. What if we-
Yeah, but I could probably answer that.
Thank you.
We just ran out of some basic timing to get down and come up with an exact, a description of what needs to be done. We really were hoping to work with the DPW to go and assess and review and really see what is warranted. But every one of those are sidewalks that have, missing portions of them. The tree roots have come up. The grounds, they've narrowed. There's tripping hazards all over the place. There's no curbs, those types of things. So it's very redundant, actually, at the end of the day.
We recognize that we're not experts, the subcommittee's not experts, we leave that to DPW engineering as an assessment phase, which would happen regardless, but I think the subcommittee did a good job of recognizing that we're gonna need professionals at that stage of repairing to understand.
I'm totally impressed with the committee's efforts to not only recommend new development, but also to get back to some of this deferred stuff that really needs to be improved as well. I think both programs are very important, because that's the full commitment for connectivity.
Yeah, I think, isn't Pheasant Hill, isn't that, there's like a big ditch in it? I think Pheasant Hill, I could be wrong, I think that's the one that's
Oh, yeah.
big.
Yeah.
They're all in
I appreciate the effort as a
need.
consultant.
Yeah, I agree, we should have both lists, running both lists that we should check annually, and then obviously get DPW's response on that, because the repair becomes accessibility issue, right?
Yeah. Safety.
Safety and accessibility,
ADA compliance.
ADA compliance, all that
Liability.
sort of stuff, so I wanna make sure. And then I did y'all did a great job, and I did also wanna comment, if I'm reading the map correctly, you all came with a lot of knowledge of the sidewalk, but then we're very much open to the public comments. If I'm looking at the map right, the ones that landed number 2, 5, and 10 were all generated some new public comments. So I appreciate your willingness to listen to folks and make sure that we're up to date on which ones.
No, it's very, very important because we can't cover it all. We're
Right.
We're human beings and but
Could the subcommittee put another pitch in as well? Andy, I can see you. I think you probably want to say the same thing I do. As good an artist Andy is, you'll note that the additions to the base map are all done by hand. The town has a functional GIS, and this information really ought to be put into that GIS for future use.
So to that end, Mark and I have already put together a proposal, and I know Kevin has seen it, and we're going to try to schedule a meeting to review that together, in which we'd be able to put extra layers, as Mark's talking about the GIS. We could actually layer on top of the GIS what the existing sidewalks, where are the existing sidewalks, where are the proposed sidewalks designated to be, as well as any new construction that's actually occurring can also be layered on top of that. And I think that'd be a great way of also communicating with the entire community as to what's happening in terms of the status of the sidewalk developments, right? So each person could really look online and see for themselves that advancement and that progress that's being made by having these extra layers on top of the GIS. I was also going to comment before about the general public. We did have a really productive public meeting, a public forum back in November. And then after that, we set up an email address for the public to send their additional comments to afterward. And we received, I think, 92 email responses from the various residents across the town with their comments and their recommendations as well. And that's what really created those additional lines to be shown on this map where they were recommending those streets in addition to the ones that we had initially developed.
the most vocal were the what they call the Scituate Moms website. I mean, those ladies are after us.
Good. They should, their mommies should take care of their kids.
Yeah.
I have 3 questions, comments. Is it gonna be April when we see the sidewalk conditions again, Kevin? Is that when all the snow is gonna melt?
In some areas you can see the sidewalk conditions.
No, I know.
Like even Front Street, there might be an icy spot here and there, but overall.
No, I just meant just when all the snow is, don't take it personally, when all the snow melts.
No, it will melt eventually, we're sure. It'll be summer again.
Okay. Secondly, we have our beautiful sidewalk on Country Way that, when they repaved the sidewalk, they decided to put new poles in the middle of the sidewalk. I didn't see that on this list at all. Are we just, is it on the list? Is it a thought?
So there are a number of issues like that, and when the subcommittee addressed current existing sidewalks, repairs and new construction, there's, I think what I would say to that, and subcommittee can talk to this, I think as well, that definitely came up. There are multiple streets, it's not just Country Way, that have ADA compliance issues, I'll say.
Oh no, these poles were literally removed and put back in the same place.
Well, maybe Kevin can speak to some of this, but we didn't put the poles
I
in
think the
there.
sidewalks
We
are built
designed it.
around it. I don't think
They-
they're-
they-
Oh no, they were,
I don't know, so, excuse me, I don't know if what's being referred to is exactly related to this, but if you look at that repair list again, if we want to put that back up, you'll see that Country Way is on that list.
oh, it is,
Yeah.
okay.
And so, but portions of sidewalk in town that might have ADA compliance issues, we felt it was kind of a glitch in the sense that they are fairly new sidewalks, last 5-6 years, some of them. They are relatively ADA compliant with the acceptance of certain things like poles, which are not something the engineers designed for specifically as much as our company.
So technically, we had that sidewalk inspected, it didn't meet ADA compliance, we had the engineer who designed it. Unfortunately, we had everything done with the base course, and the electric company came out and put in new poles, and we tried to move everything around, so it was a problem when it happened, but it met ADA compliance, and the road was cleaned up.
Because we don't, as a town, we don't install power, right? We don't install poles.
And one last point that did come up when I was speaking with an engineer earlier today, there are some towns in this area that have the DPW board that is made up of engineers or, people in this area that sort of, like an advisory board to DPW projects overall to sort of keep everyone in the loop, and I didn't know if that was something that we could maybe discuss at some later date.
Like joining the.
Well,
is there
just
like a regional.
Did we ever have one? Did we ever have
So
a?
Marshfield has a board, instead of the select board making the funding decisions and everything,
It's the funding, I thought does Norwell have an advisory board? I know we're going way off.
Lowell has an elected DPW superintendent. He's
Okay,
elected roads, sidewalks, outside the board of selectmen.
all under his purview.
Marshfield has an elected DPW board. Roads, snow removal, sidewalks, outside the board of selectmen.
Okay,
The road commissioners in Scituate, the road commissioners in Scituate, sitting right here.
alright,
You're right.
okay, can you call us the select board though?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been 30 years. I get it most of the time, but I miss them every now and then.
But I take your point about Country Way, it's an important point, and it did come up. And the trick was trying to decide, would that be considered a repair? Would that be considered more new construction, or is that sort of?
It's all, it brings up a whole
And that's
bigger
why-
point too. I mean, we've been asked to put the poles underground on Front Street, which is like $3 million, $4 million.
Yeah.
We can do it on other street, like it's millions of dollars. Oh yeah, people have come to.
Either way.
I would love to do it if we had, if anyone
Well,
gets the scratchies.
I'm not sure you want
Water,
electricity
water,
underground where it
In the winter?
floods.
In the winter?
It's
Yeah.
But
probably-
to this subcommittee's purpose and goal, I think I was stated as I think they did a very good job of understanding that ultimately this roadmap is still going to DPW and the board of selectmen. They're not making funding decisions, we are.
Select board.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, so-
the polls on Country Way are referenced here on this chart.
Okay, well.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just going to point that out.
So anyway,
But it was, they made a good effort at that.
Okay, I think you guys did an amazing job and I thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so our next step, I mean, I don't know if we use GIS or some other, but we could certainly use mapping software to get this on. I know we'll find a way. We'll definitely find a way. I don't know, whatever software.
I
Find
know that Kevin
software.
has started the process of.
Oh, okay.
creating a
If
meeting
you
with
give
our-
us that area, we can have it all priced up about weeks. Yes.
And then we can just start, and then we can start just seeing.
So this also.
We do or not do.
The special legislation that the town passed, the betterment to allow for betterments to pay for sidewalks. That has been in the Senate second reading since November 13th. It has not moved.
Of 2025 or?
25.
Okay, it's not too bad, right?
So just to set the Wayback Machine, First Parish was done almost entirely with complete street grants. We got a grant, we went as far as we could, we waited, we got another grant, we're applying for complete street grants for Stockbridge. This is the first time since I've been here, there's actually gonna be dedicated money for sidewalks in the capital plan, $400,000. That's a lot of money. When Scituate did the sidewalks up on Route 123 about 4 years ago, Kev? No, sorry. 1 foot of sidewalk with curbing, $500 a foot. So $400,000 will do 800 feet sidewalk.
Which was part of the reason we tried to chunk things like Hadley Road and 3A into.
So just, miles, 2.6 million. The issue we're having right now is the complete street grants criteria has changed. Now, aside from doing a sidewalk, they also want you to make accommodations for bike lanes. And when you look at Hadley Road, you look at Stockbridge, you look at some of the roads we're talking about, we can't, there's not enough width. So we're gonna have to do the same thing we're doing now, chunk along with the money we have to try to do what we can do. But I think that legislation that we talked about, where if a neighborhood or a street really wants a sidewalk, we can assess that neighborhood or street and build a sidewalk if they want.
Again, that's part of the beauty of this
So
plan.
we need to push that further with our legislative.
The two pieces of legislation, that and the parking fines, are both in the Senate. They've been in the Senate since November.
Yeah, but the reality is as of today on
They went to
Hadley
the
Road,
same
you
day.
have bikers, you have pedestrians on the road.
And they don't know how to walk and bike in the road. People walk.
And it's so
with
dangerous.
Traffic, people,
And people are
Yeah,
going
anyway.
down that
Yeah.
road 40 miles.
But again,
an hour.
that's all, this is part of the beauty of this, because then we can, right, those ones we can pick maybe two, number 5, 7, and 8 could be through the grant system, and then have your other ones. All right,
Have
maybe
to
we need
work
to go for
every angle.
That's
That's the way to do it.
I love it.
So just so that I'm clear, what are the next steps here?
Well, one, we're gonna do the GIC or
GIS.
whatever,
Yeah.
GIS
Pricing.
and pricing. They get pricing.
So, and if we can work in their priority list, if we feel that that's the way to do that, we get on the GIS, we look at it easier than this. Mr. Chairman, I would submit that then we could say, okay, this is the priority list scheduling, then have to work that into.
Yeah, the next project, as mentioned, is Stockbridge. On the top of the hill to, I think where the cemetery is, where the sidewalk will be.
Yeah,
That's
we're in progress.
just about designed. I think we can do a couple tweaks to that, and then we can go out to bid and see. We have $400,000 in town funds. We're applying for the grant, and then the planning board has some money. I don't think it's more than $100,000 for sidewalks in the Greenbush area that we can tap into. So that's the next sidewalk. Once that's done, we'll have all the information that Kevin talked about. We'll come back and talk about the list.
And Mr. Chairman, is there another funding mechanism for the repairs list? Another way to look at that, as opposed to new construction?
There's road and seawall money in Kevin's budget, $400,000 if we have to add back. That comes out of our,
But that's streets that I'm not paving. Inside of the
so just
sidewalk.
everything's an opportunity cost, right? If you do the sidewalk, you're not doing a street.
what is the potential timeline for Stockbridge? Like, are we talking months, years?
Do we know if we're up this year for the grant or next year, Kevin?
I'd have to double check.
Yeah, Sean was out today, Sean's going to work on that, because you have to wait at least a year before you can apply.
Exactly.
But we have money, so I think the plan is, once that design is done, and Sean said it's pretty close, we'll go out to bid to see, we'll bid it in sections, section 1, section 2, section 3, there'll be alternates. So we can take as much as we can afford, we'll do that, the issue that, so I would think hopefully this summer we'll be able to go out
Mr.
and
Chair,
see the bid on that.
I'd like to stress the importance of, yes, it's a wonderful thing for us to be able to build brand new sidewalks. It's not too good a practice to ignore the sidewalks that need repair. How do you prioritize those two things, either together or get the repairs going first? Because those are things we've already invested in. And people are already having problems with those.
And some of them
Yeah,
are relatively
yeah,
small. Let's get the map, let's get the pricing, we can see what we can repair while we look for the
There's
best plan.
repairs, like going out and fixing the sidewalk.
Correct.
And then you have Curtis, which is what led to the discussion about the betterments for sidewalks. Curtis is not a repair. Curtis is a new sidewalk.
Right.
All right, so that'll be everything out, new in, so you're talking again, it was $500 a foot 4 years ago, I don't know what it is at this point, but we'll get some updated numbers for you.
The one thing that I really want to stress is that we have a pretty good following now. People are constantly asking for updates, what's going on, that we've contacted over the years. So I would like to have some type of system to check in and get feedback and not just go into like a black hole again. I mean, government works, it's a way I understand, but
We're gonna put in the GIS, we're gonna get the cost estimates, but the next project on the list is Stockbridge.
yes, we understand.
So-
But that's today, but
We will work on that and then.
6 months down the road, what
I
hap-
think the yearly review is what I'd
Yeah.
like to see for it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get info before that, but we're talking. 2 months, what we got.
Great.
Yeah, I'd say, just we're going into budget season.
We'll go whatever road the board wants to get out, but as Kevin said, if we do $100,000 sidewalk repair, that's $100,000 that's not going into a road or dam or something.
Yeah, but as we get there, that's.
Can I offer, to conclude that, can I offer, a motion to adopt that, score sheet to the DPW or as a roadmap?
Yeah, we could do it, right on the, sure, a motion to accept this, so DPW can look at it. And just want to accept it as written.
As a living document.
As a living document.
So I'll move that the board adopt the current page 3 score sheet, which we can separately furnish to the board as the going forward, the current roadmap and living document to be given to the DPW for future sidewalk construction and current repairs.
And also page 5, please include page 5 in there too.
And for yearly review.
Your page 5 list.
Page 5 and yearly review, poor Shari, did you hear that? Can't even see her. You're not here, there's a big board, we can't see anyone.
She actually ran out about half an hour.
I know.
Moved by Nico, she's been gone for an hour.
making faces.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Well done.
Thank you, whatever.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
And we're on for yearly review and we're gonna keep getting updates.
Excellent.
Great job, Kate.
I love
Yeah.
it, thank you.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Please.
Shari, would love to give you.
Everybody's gonna keep the board.
Nico, well done. That's well done. All right, we're gonna take a, everyone's wearing a little 2-minute recess. Let's go. Excellent. All right, it is 8:37. We are back to discuss with our DPW Director, Kevin Cafferty's budget on snow and ice. It has been cold. Tell us where we are, how we're doing, and what has happened.
So our total budget is $497,115. As of yesterday, our total remaining budget is $141,256. So we have 28% of the budget left. We have some outstanding costs, and we're in a scramble now to get more salt because we've used up a lot of our salt. So we were coming before the board tonight to request the ability to go over if it's so needed, and we can go forward. A lot of things that we have been doing, obviously, we've been doing a lot of plowing, we've been doing a lot of sidewalks. We have 2 sidewalk plows, one of them has gone down. We are continuing to work on sidewalks. People want them all done at once so that they can get out. But unfortunately, it takes time for us to get through, especially with the amount of snow that we have. And we're doing it on straight time, trying to save as much money as possible. We're not just keeping out there 24 hours a day. And please bear with us. And as we find things, we go out and we try to repair them the best we can.
But I think that storm was a lot harder than all of us realized. A lot more snow, heavier than we expected.
What did that last storm cost us? Because we've used.
It hasn't, we haven't even finished doing it, right? I mean, there's.
No, but I'm saying like didn't we salt previously?
Yes, we've been salting quite a bit.
That last storm.
Last storm, we had to go out and salt before the storm because our brine pump system broke.
So you're saying
I was saying, where were we before the last storm? I was just curious.
Sure, first, I think we need to make sure people watching this in the town know that in the summer, we're proactive with salt acquisition.
Yeah.
And we're still now, no matter how proactive you can be, sometimes we're hit. So I would like to make the motion to allow them to deficit spend in this account for the rest of the season.
All right, to answer your question first, do you want to know about the storm?
Yeah, but I mean, like, we can't just write a blank check.
So,
And if it's
they should
like
just point out that there was a
costing
change
us $1
in the
million
statute.
or not plowing a sidewalk, I think we have to.
2
have a
years ago, I can
conversation.
authorize deficit spending. I think this board should actually take that step. It's either deficit spending or it's not. I can tell you, we do not do anything we don't need to do. As Kevin said, a lot of towns, they plow at 1 o'clock in the morning, then they put a guy in a sidewalk plow. We don't do that. We're doing the sidewalks on straight time. We did Front Street in North Scituate with our crews. Instead of bringing an outside crews, we did hire a couple of trucks because we didn't have enough trucks. But in 2018, I think when we did it, we had to bring an all outside crew. It cost about $40,000 just to do Front Street back then. So we're pretty judicious. I was down the salt barn on Sunday talking to George, one of the backhoe, the loader. And George says, he's been here for 20 years, Kevin. 20 years, the first time he's seen the back wall of the salt shed.
Wow.
So we have 800 tons of salt on order. I think we got 4 tablespoons today. It's not really just difficult getting salt, but
Yeah, we have contractors trying to reach out, they can't get all the.
I remember.
well, Morton's has, it was on the news, Morton's will no longer sell to private contractors. So the other private contractor responsible for Mass General Hospital, you cannot get salt anymore. They're only selling to municipalities or the Commonwealth, and we still can't get it. But again, I can authorize the deficit spending, but I think this board should.
Yeah, no,
I think we need updates too.
Motion's on the
Yeah,
table.
once
we have-
we're the deficit, Susan, we'll provide you,
Yeah.
I get an update from Nancy, every time we spend money, you guys are more than welcome to get it every time.
Motion's on the table.
Can I
We gotta
just
vote.
say one thing
Nancy has
before
everything,
we?
yes. Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so Nancy, go ahead.
We want to hear from Nancy.
As of the end of December, we had spent $30,000. As of the end of January, we had spent 274,000. And now, as Kevin said, we're 28% remaining.
Yeah, $250,000.
That storm cost us $250,000.
And that's
I
not
just
what
wanna
it's-
say you guys have done
That's more
an
what I wanted to
incredible
know.
job.
The guys,
I
thank
think
you.
it's a good
You
take
really
home
have.
for people to know that.
The guys would have gladly stayed home and waited till it all melted. They were 40-something hours straight.
To the motion, I just have a question to Susan's point. If we authorize deficit spending through the end of the season, what's the check and balance on? I don't anticipate
I
it.
think Jim just didn't answer that, and quite frankly.
Well, I'm not sure. I
Robert, it's point of order here. I have a motion on the table.
Yeah.
Typically, you would second that, then you would open it up for further discussion.
Well, I don't have a second.
Second.
Okay, now we have.
I just want a little clarification. This is my learning process. I just don't understand. If we're sort of saying the motion is a blank check, what's the check and balance on the blank check? That if we have another foot storm come in and Jim gives us an update that we're now over budget, we have the authority to turn off that blank check whenever we feel like it as well, correct?
Would you turn off that check?
No, I'm asking for the clarification on protocol, not on what we want to
You
do.
either authorize deficit spending or you don't, so there's no way to authorize
I
$125,000.
was gonna go out and buy.
Yes, it's mine, that the check and balance is me, and Kevin, We do not spend money willy-nilly. The only time I'll say to Kevin is, look, just get it done, is when we have a declared emergency.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be getting state, federal reimbursement back. That's like, look, do what you need to do.
I'm not questioning any motives, I'm trying to understand
So,
protocol.
yeah,
how
and
it
you will
works.
get regular updates again. Every time Kevin spends money on a storm.
Last time we had more than one storm like this was 2017, and I wasn't here, so that's all I'm trying to
So,
understand.
That's why I wasn't aware of the change in statute, because this is the first time we've done deficit spending since it changed.
I think it's a great dynamic and it actually helps in this circumstance extremely well.
We do not, yeah, I mean, we're pretty careful with the budget.
We're pretty frugal with how we spend it. And remember, if we get a call from the police and they say the whole town needs to be salted, we can't get a fire truck or an ambulance down, we can't really say no.
I was not questioning you.
Yeah.
Nope, that's the checking balance of Kevin and I, and we'll keep reporting to you when we get into deficit, we'll get.
Perfect, thank you. All of them.
Motion?
We've already made that motion. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Now this is like buying a snow blower, so we want to spend any more money now that we can spend more money.
Excellent.
Exactly.
I'll stop pushing for snow.
Thank you very much.
More flurries, forecast from Friday night into Saturday morning. Maybe plowable, but probably treated.
Nuisance. Is our brine truck back up and running now?
No, actually, our brine system is kind of frozen solid. So, we're having some issues with it now. It's on the capital plan to be replaced. It's outdated. We're having trouble getting parts for it, but it froze solid as it got really, really cold. The heater died in the building that it was in. So that's one reason we're moving it down. But remember, we get called a lot of times with the salting and sanding, we'll put 14 trucks out. They're all our own guys, but they're usually out for extended periods of time because these storms haven't been just a quick freeze. They continue, even if it's only an inch, it snows.
Zero.
Yeah, you'll see, I'll be coming to work, Norwell will have their entire salting crew out salting the whole town. Whereas we brought two guys in at 4 o'clock in the morning, put them in our big trucks. And they're doing a circuit of the town, so, especially at this point, I tell you, the crews don't wanna come in anymore. They do not wanna come in, they're done, so, you're not gonna get guys like, oh, you need to bring us all in, they're just like, well, we're done.
Last year, we were on the budget, Norwell, Hanover, and Pembroke were they've already spent their entire budget. They've gone over into deficit spending. This is the first time we've done it since, I want to say, when was it? 18. So,
Done very well.
Thank you for all.
18, a lot of-
Thank the DPW for all of their work.
Now, fun stuff.
Pension, yes, next is pension liability.
So, Town of Halifax started this when they took a vote and sent a letter to the Plymouth County Retirement Board asking that the Plymouth County Retirement Board extend the funding schedule for an unspecified period of time to provide financial relief to city and town budgets due to the ongoing fiscal crisis. I believe the town of Hanover has joined them, the town of Marshfield has joined them. Some of those boards have reached out to our chair to see what we
I got
wanted to
people
do.
reaching out to me too.
So we decided we would put it on the agenda. When I got the original email from East Bridgewater, my response to him was, I didn't think it was a very good idea. We're trying to pay this off. Every time we go out to borrow, the Plymouth County funding schedule shows up on our management letter from the bonding agency saying, you really gotta pay that off. I can't tell you what any savings would be. Our assessment from 26 to 27, is going up about $600,000, is that about right? For next year, it goes up about $1 million. So it is a big hit, but in 2031, we make the last payment. And our assessment that year will be just about $13 million. And then in 2032, our assessment will come down probably a minimum of $6 million less than that. So it is a pain. It is a big hit on our budget. My recommendation, I think Nancy's recommendation is at this point, we stay the course, we put our head down, and we pull through the 2031 and get this off our books and get it done with.
Fiscally responsible.
I totally agree.
100%.
I agree. That line.
They want to go to about 2040?
They haven't said, they've asked the county to run various scenarios. You'd have to go out, to have any savings, you'd have to go out at least 5 years. Going out 2 or 3 years is not gonna spread that out.
Not gonna help you at all. Those savings are only temporary. It's not going
The temporary savings, and if the market goes down, you're gonna have another spike. If interest rates change, you're gonna have another problem. Again, it's expensive, and it's gonna be going up 27, 28, like $1 million, $1 million plus a year, which is gonna be a real drag on our budget, but.
But we have this responsibility to take care of this. This is something we are responsible for. We shouldn't be messing around with pensions.
You know, and what's happened, Jamie, is in the past, and Nancy can speak to it quite better than I do, in the past, they've played around with the funding schedule because there's a budget problem, because there's this. If they just stayed what they said at the beginning, I'm going 8% a year for 25 years, I think we'd be all done, right?
Be close to
Pretty
the
close.
now.
It would have been 2020, that was 2028, and they extended it again, didn't they?
It's gone, 2034 to 2031 to 2029, 2031. I'll say back and forth.
All right, so 2031.
I have 30 on the last payment.
It's a motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Gilmore.
Move that the Scituate Select Board vote not to support an extension of the date to fully fund the unfunded actuarial liability for Plymouth County pension beyond the current fiscal year 2031.
Second.
Mr. Gilmore, seconded by
Colin.
Nico. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Let's see.
Regulators.
Town of Hanover, $7 million deficit. Let's see, Halifax, 2 million, that's why.
Yeah, that's why.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion for the drain layers licenses.
Yes, please.
Move to, because the paperwork is in order, I'll say.
It is.
Move to approve renewal of drain layers licenses for Costello Contracting, Taubman Enterprises, Site Pro Contract.
Second.
Mr. Lewis, seconded by Ferrer, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I have one piece of correspondence, very important correspondence.
Especially
Yes.
this month, right?
Oh, yeah.
From the Plymouth County Mosquito Control Project.
Yes.
Their annual report submitted to us by Ross Rossetti, the superintendent. And I'm gonna just briefly just give you the aspect as related to our fair town. And I'll go quick. The figures specific to the town of Scituate are given below. While mosquitoes do not respect town lines, the information given below does provide tally of the activities. I'm gonna paraphrase as we go. Insecticide applications, our greatest effort has been targeting that mosquitoes in the larval stage. They took care of 146 larval sites were checked. During the summer, 986 catch basins were treated in Scituate to prevent the emergence of Pulex pippins, I don't know what that is, a known mosquito vector in West Nile transmission. Our staff treated 2,111.91 acres using truck-mounted sprayers. Water management during 2025 crews removed blockages, brush, and other obstructions from 3,333 linear feet of ditches, streams to prevent overflow or stagnation. At the end of this, they're actually getting into the types of mosquitoes we have. We have 3. And I think the other thing you note is there's 2 major diseases that they fight for.
Triple E and West Nile.
Right, and no triple E has been reported in Scituate, only West Nile virus. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have one piece of correspondence.
Yes.
I had an amazing meeting with Donna Green of Marshfield at the Magical Moon Foundation today. And she has this amazing plan. I don't know if you can see it on TV, but it has been in her mind since 1997 when AJ McEachran passed away. His family was into the Irish mossing. This is a sketch of a Irish mossing dory with a boy in it. I've got a picture for you to see. He is an
Yes.
Irishman. There would be some wooden planters with some moss-like plantings, lavender around it, another vessel to use for water catchment. The proposed area would be on the Rotary and Scituate to draw in, people to our businesses, our historical sites, similar to like the fishermen in Gloucester. The proposal would be that this structure be made of copper because we are the home of the Copper King. There could be some verbiage around here on the outside, but the proposal would be that the actual information be over in the area close to the pond. And obviously, we're not gonna discuss this tonight, but I just wanted to make you aware that this is what is going on. in one of my many projects that I am working on for the town.
This is being brought forward what direction? Is it being brought to a committee somewhere, or is this just?
This is a Freya thing.
The prayer committee.
Someone brought it, and bring it for a proposal.
Donna Green has been thinking of this for a very, very long time, and she posted something online a couple days ago, and I saw it, I loved it. The Historical Commission, the Historical Society, the EDC, or not the EDC, I don't lead to EDC, but the Chamber of Commerce have all been looking at ways to get more commerce to our beautiful town, and this would be a focal point, an amazing thing, and obviously a lot more discussion to come. I already have ideas for fundings and volunteers and all kinds of things. So.
Cool. Love it. Yeah, excellent.
As a sort of just a informational point, I think it's a really neat idea. I know I worked with Chris Kennedy on the initial Rotary. That was back. The MBTA, the DOT has regulations.
They can't be taller than a person.
They can't be taller than 2 feet off the ground.
Well, that's all for this person.
Anyway, I've always wanted something centerpiece in the Rotary, and we couldn't do it back then, and so just FYI for when you start looking at that. The regs are pretty difficult, but I'm all for.
Sounds like it needs some research.
We will discuss.
It's just being born, being born right now, a couple days ago.
Yeah, great.
All right, I have a proposal for meeting minutes.
Move to accept the select board minutes for January 20th, 2026, and further move to approve and not release the executive session minutes from January 20th, 2026.
Moved by Scituate, seconded by Schlegel, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Everybody can adjourn. Moved, by Schlegel, seconded by Nico, all in favor?
Aye.